Hi, my name's Charles and you're listening to ShopFreeMart's audio broadcast. If you're new to our YouTube channel, please click the red subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner. You'll also see a small bell icon. If you click that, that will notify you when we make an update or post a new recording. If you wish to go to our ShopFreeMart website, go to our About page. There's a direct link. So without further ado, let's go to today's presenter.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our ShopFreeMart call. This is John Austin. I'll be your host today. Today we're going to talk about our Iodine product. Of all the elements essential for human health, iodine is the least understood and the most feared, yet iodine is the safest of all the essential trace elements. It's the only one that can be administered safely in high doses for long periods of time, as long as one understands how to adapt the dosage to his or her need. According to the Bible, people historically lived to be hundreds of years old prior to the flood, but immediately thereafter, life expectancy was cut to less than 100 years. Could the secret lie in the fact that iodine and other minerals were washed out of the soil by the flood? Iodine is perhaps the easiest mineral to wash out of the soil. Some scientists have postulated that the flood of Noah washed most of the iodine out of her soil, and what little remained has since been washed out by rain and irrigation. Dr. Brownstein, author of Iodine and Why You Need It, Why You Can't Live Without It, along with other doctors, tested over 6,000 patients and found that approximately 96% were iodine deficient. Iodine deficiency increases the risk of cretinism, a form of dwarfism, mental impairment, retardation, and reduced intellectual ability. Also, the risk of goiter, deafness, infertility, ADHD, sudden death syndrome in infants, multiple sclerosis, myelin disorders, and perhaps all forms of cancer. Studies show that iodine deficiency is the leading preventable cause of mental disorders, and moderate deficiencies can lower intelligence by 10 to 15 IQ points. Adding sufficient iodine to your diet has also been shown to increase IQ by 10 to 15 points. Iodine deficiency is a significant health problem in 129 countries. There were studies done from 1970 to 2012 in which were reported that iodine levels had dropped by 50% over a period of 42 years. Iodine has successfully been used to treat virtually every known disease and illness, and this should be an indication of the pandemic nature of iodine deficiency. If you have any symptoms, any health symptoms, it could indicate an iodine deficiency. So the question remains, is iodine a silver bullet against disease that has been purposely obscured to enrich the so-called healthcare industry? And I believe it is. At one time, iodine was the remedy of choice in every hospital, every doctor's office, and every home medicine cabinet. And today, the only place that iodine is frequently used to treat disease is in a veterinary clinic. Why do you suppose that is? Because animals have to be cured quickly and inexpensively, otherwise a pound of hamburger would cost you $60. According to Lynn Farrow, author of The Iodine Crisis, iodine was the first treatment of choice for tumors and aggressive diseases of obscure origin during the 19th century. Generally speaking, there are two different forms of iodine: iodide and elemental iodine. Elemental iodine, like ShopFreeMart Puridine, can be absorbed and utilized directly by the cells. However, iodide is a compound that's created by combining iodine with a salt such as potassium. Iodides require a transport molecule called the sodium iodide symporter, or NIS, to get into the cells. Once iodide gets into the cell, it undergoes two important processes: oxidation and organification. Iodide must be converted to iodine in order to be utilized by the body, and oxidation effectively does that. The process of oxidation requires hydrogen peroxide, or H2O2, thyroperoxidase, TPO, and NADPH, activated by calcium and inhibited by delta iodolactone. If production of hydrogen peroxide in the body is insufficient to oxidize the iodide, high doses of potassium iodide can be dangerous and can lead to damage of thyroid tissue and to a hyperthyroid condition called Hashimoto's disease. ShopFreeMart Puridine is pure nascent or elemental iodine. It has no need to be imported into the cells and no need to be oxidized to be converted into iodine. Elemental iodine can be used by the cells without any other chemical reactions necessary. The next step in the utilization of iodine is called organification, which means that iodine becomes part of cholesterol, fats, and proteins, and it takes about 100 times the RDA, or 15 milligrams of iodine, to produce proteins like delta iodolactone, which regulates cell death called apoptosis and cellular growth, both of which are implicated in the formation of cancer. Iodolactone also keeps hydrogen peroxide in check. This is a critical factor because too much H2O2 damages tissues and causes an autoimmune response like Hashimoto's or Graves' disease. Iodine belongs to a group of chemicals on the periodic scale called halogens or halides, which includes fluorine, chlorine, astatine, and bromine. All halides have a similar chemical structure and compete with iodine for binding and absorption into the iodine receptor site. In the 1960s, flour and milk were both fortified with iodine, which had a very positive effect upon human health. But 10 years later, iodine was removed from both flour and milk, and bromine was added to flour to replace the iodine. This was one of the greatest health blunders of all time, or perhaps it wasn't, because by 1970, those who owned and controlled Big Pharma were also in control of the FDA and the AMA. They obviously knew that the body will substitute bromine for iodine to make T4 hormone when iodine is deficient. Furthermore, brominated T4 is fake and cannot be used by the thyroid, which means that you can still be hypothyroid even if T4 tests show that you have plenty of T4 hormone. Bromine is an endocrine disruptor, and bromine toxification is associated with delirium, psychomotor problems, retardation, schizophrenia, and hallucinations. Ingesting bromine can make you feel dull, apathetic, and make concentrating difficult. Bromide can also cause severe depression, headaches, and irritability. These symptoms can be present even with low levels of bromine in the diet. Bromine is found almost everywhere. It's in our flour products, including bread, pasta, bakery goods, carbonated drinks, juice drinks, processed foods, medications, tap water, swimming pools, hot tubs, plastics, upholstery, carpets, fire retardants, etc. Why do you suppose that is? A hot car in the summertime is off-gassing bromine, and doors and windows should be open for a few minutes before getting inside to allow the bromine to dissipate. Chlorine is another dangerous halide with broad exposure due to it being used to disinfect tap water, sewage, industrial waste, and it's used in the production of paper and cloth as a bleaching agent. It's used in cleaning products, including household bleach. It's also used in the preparation of chlorides, solvents, pesticides, polymers, synthetic rubbers, and refrigerants. How can you escape all this stuff? It's virtually impossible. When chlorine enters the body as a result of breathing, swallowing, or skin contact, it produces acids in the body which are corrosive and which damage your cells on contact. Furthermore, chlorine blocks the uptake of iodine in the body. Fluoride is another halide that's prescribed as a medicine to prevent tooth decay. Among other things, fluoride blocks iodine from getting into the receptor sites of your brain cells. Fluoride is also added to our water. Again, even if you shower in chlorinated and fluoridated water, you're soaking it in through your skin. The good news is that iodine supplementation in the proper amounts increases urinary excretion of halides such as fluoride, bromide, and chlorine derivatives, as well as heavy metals such as cadmium, aluminum, lead, and mercury. Cancer is a result of mutated cells. Iodine is critical for the P53 gene that prevents damaged cells from dividing. Iodine and selenium helps the P53 gene do its job of eliminating abnormal cells. Cancer patients have used 50 to 300 milligrams of iodine per day successfully. Iodine proponent Dr. Bob DeMaria says, iodine is not just for the thyroid gland, it's for breast tissue and ovaries in women and testicles in men. It turns off the gene that promotes cancer. Apoptosis is limited cell life. Iodine keeps cancer cells in check. Iodine expert Dr. Edward Group says that women who take 3 to 4 milligrams a day of iodine for a period of 3 to 4 months may experience fibrocystic changes, including seeing their breast cancer disappear. He goes on to say that if people have sufficient levels of iodine inside of their body, that they are not likely to ever have heart disease, cancer, diabetes, thyroid dysfunction, infertility, polycystic ovaries, or breast disease, because they are all linked to iodine deficiency. All of the cystic diseases are definitely a sign of iodine deficiency. Dr. Brownstein explains that all the glands of the body depend on adequate iodine levels to function optimally. Iodine is responsible for maintaining normal architecture of the thyroid, ovaries, uterus, breast, and prostate. Animal studies have shown iodine deficiency to affect the adrenal glands, the thymus gland, the ovaries, the hypothalamus and pituitary axis, as well as the entire endocrine system. Ovaries in women and testicles in men have the second highest concentration of iodine. Dr. Fletcher says all hormone receptors are dependent on iodine, which increases the sensitivity of the receptor to the hormone it's designed for. For example, it can increase the sensitivity of insulin receptors and thus help with diabetes. Similarly, it can increase the sensitivity of the receptors for neurotransmitters such as serotonin, dopamine, and GABA in the brain. Thus, depression may lift after taking iodine. It can also increase the sensitivity of the receptors for testosterone and FSH and LH, which is why some people are cured of diabetes by taking iodine supplements, and also why iodine cures low libido and hypothyroidism. Iodine deficiency leads to an imbalanced hormonal system. In fact, a balanced hormonal system is impossible without an adequate intake of iodine. It's a great product. People are realizing that. They're buying it up, and definitely this is a product that every single person, from a newborn baby to the oldest person on earth, should be taking supplemental iodine.